these are some of the coolest Game Boys I definitely own. Here we have Game Boy Light. It was released in 1998, right before the Game Boy Color, so this thing didn't really take off. There isn't much of these in the world, actually, because it's such a short production run because Game Boy Color came out and everybody wanted to play the new games with color and their old games with color rather than having a backlight, which you cannot even see under my film lights. My next coolest Game Boy I own is the Game Boy Macro. This thing is pretty damn good. It's made from a DS Lite. I forgot this wasn't glued down yet, but the front part of the shell is 3D printed, which is really cool. And this uses no soldering. And I can get DS Homebrew working on it. Except because there's no soldering, it doesn't have a speaker. So yeah. Here it is. Wait for it to load. Wait for it to load. It doesn't have a touch screen. There's plenty of games on it too. And I can all play them off this R4 card. So yeah. My light almost fell. So yeah, these are some cool Game Boys out. Let's get to trying them out. Something I'll actually do for trying this Game Boy Light out. There we go. Subpar lighting to the rescue. It's probably my favorite Game Boy I own. Simply for the reason that I actually love original Game Boy games. And the form factor of the original Game Boys, but the lighting has always been an issue with these things, but now I don't really have to worry about all that. I'm not that good at Tetris. I'm also the camera lens to play this, which is a lot harder than you think from the position I'm in. Literally have to, like kneeling on a chair just to do this. Oh dang, I didn't know I couldn't put that there. All right, here we going. We're going. Can't do this for too much longer. Position is very awkward and I keep moving it backwards on accident. Ah, dang it. Ah, screw it all. So yeah. The Game Boy Light. Probably like one of the most underrated Game Boys in my opinion. I've already talked about their AGS 101 Game Boy Advances. Is that a backlight before it? Haha. The context behind me saying AGS 101 Game Boy Advance is the Game Boy Advance SP had two models. One is the AGS 001, which is the one I have. So yeah, this is what the screen looks like. It's a front lit screen, and then you will get blind if you look at it the wrong way. But yeah, this only has a front lit screen. It's not the best screen, but you can definitely play it at night. The one upside to this Game Boy Advance is the fact that you can just turn the backlight entirely off if you want to, which makes it really easy to play in like bright sunlight and stuff, or other bright lights. There's another upside to this thing where you can just turn it off if you're playing it in janky light. You're playing in a bright enough light, except the screen is gonna glare a lot. And my phone flash isn't on. So, yeah. And there's also an AGS 101 model, the Game Boy Advance SP. The models would say on the sticker that's right here, except mine don't have the stickers because they got peopled off like a long time ago. And if you have a Game Boy Advance SP, it says AGS 101. You got a backlit, and I'm also pretty sure I heard something about this. It has a backlight and a front light. The front light just makes it brighter, so you can have just a brighter screen. But I'm not entirely sure about that. So if it isn't both a backlight and a front light, it's just this button just changes the brightness to make it brighter or darker. And if you look at your bottom, you still have this sticker here, and it says AGS 101. You got the good one. And if yours says AGS 001, or you can turn off the backlight or front light entirely, then that's not the good model. Which is sad, but at least it still has a light in general, so yeah. So yeah, Game Boy Light. Next up, this is my only custom console. It's Game Boy Macro. The buttons on this thing aren't actually too good. So you got a little custom animation here. And like I said, this is a no soldering version I made entirely myself. I actually used no guides whatsoever. No guides, and made this thing. The only issue I have with it right now is the screen lens will fall off. Because this does have a screen lens. It's a screen lens that's taken from the top screen. So yeah. And the nice thing is I have a R4 card that has Twilight menu installed. Which Twilight menu is kind of like a custom software on the DS. An R4 card is like a special DS cartridge with an SD card slot, because yeah, this is built off a DS. It's a DS Lite specifically. The nice thing about that is the DS Lites, they play GBA games, so taking off the top screen here and doing this mod, you literally are making your own Game Boy Advance. And the thing is, if you remember, if anybody out there owns a DS or DS Lite, they'll know that the Game Boy Advance games, they automatically display the top screen, but you can change that to the bottom screen and play your games off of that. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run through how I made this thing, and how you can make one if you really wanted to. Okay, so how I made this thing with no soldering, as you see, it's booted up to a DS game. If you have general knowledge on DS electronics, you'll know if you take out the top screen, it won't boot to DS games. But one thing it will boot to is your Game Boy Advance games. Oh, my dog's barking. But it will boot to GBA games. it won't have audio because it doesn't have a speaker. Which, if you also change another setting other than displaying PBA games to the bottom screen, if you set it to auto boot, and so your GBA games to the bottom screen, and just remove the top screen, you'll have yourself a COOLEST Game Boy Mac. But mine's a little more complicated than all of that now, because what I did is I wanted to play some homebrew and emulators on this bad boy. So what I did was I took the top screen that came out of this thing, it was kind of broken, and I stripped it apart. If you cut down the top screen, if you know a bit about DS electronics, is if you take off that, if you tear the top screen cable, it won't work. But if you remove all the parts that, except for the backlight, everything except for the backlight off that top screen cable and the top screen in general, and cut it down just the right size, you can actually have it boot to DS homebrew and stuff. And I just did that and just fitted it into here. There is I've seen some people do this with a original DS, but I don't actually think I've ever seen somebody do this with a Game Boy. How do I say Game Boy? DS Lite. So I might be one of the first. So yeah, that's how I made this thing. Now I'm not gonna take this thing apart and really show all I did, because this front plate on here is a little tad annoying. But yeah, my only complaint is the buttons are actually insanely shallow, but it also hides the fact that if you try and play like a homebrew game like this, it will like scrape against the 3D print and get all stuck and stuff, and it's quite annoying, and it hides that. Okay, I really don't like how I explained this in the video, but basically what I was trying to say about the buttons like scraping up against the shell is it does that when this 3D print is in two different parts. There's a front part and a back part, and with just the back part, the buttons scrape up against it, but somehow with the buttons being kind of shallow with the front part, it makes it so it doesn't really scrape up against it if you were to play it like this. But it does say it literally has a Game Boy logo up here, and because I chose black, it blends in. I guess it almost like an original Cosmo Black 3DS look if I put it at this angle, because this seems like a lot more shiny, the actual plastic on the DS. So yeah, these are the two coolest Game Boys I've ever owned so far, and this is a close third. You can't see in the frame here, and see y'all next time. Bye.